Hi, I'm Beth Temple, and I'm here on behalf of my friends at Create It to show you all the tips and tricks that you might need to make your very own chenille chicken with our quick chenille crochet kit. Now, this does presume that you have a certain amount of crochet knowledge, but there is not a whole lot to learn here, but I'm going to show you all of my tricks. Now, the first thing I want to point out is that almost everything you need to make your chicken is right here in the kit. We do have a separate stuffing pack here. We have the white yarn for the chicken itself. We have the red and the pink and the gold for the embellishments that we're going to crochet. We have our handy dandy crochet hook. We have a yarn needle to weave in our tails and close up all our items. And we have plastic safety eyes. And of course in here we also have our pattern. We're going to follow right along with the pattern. It does say you may need some extra basic sewing supplies, scissors, optional glue. I don't use it, but you might want it. And you're going to need maybe a gauge check or a tape measure just to make sure that you're getting the size of new friend that you like. Now let's jump right in and take our first look at the pattern. Now there are some notes and tips right here on the pattern. One of which is that chenille is a different kind of yarn to work with. And what you want to do when you're stitching is sort of get a feel for where the stitches are, because it's a little harder to see them because the yarn is so fluffy. If you have to pull anything out, you want to work it out of the stitches gently because of the way all chenille yarns are made. You don't want to snap it in the middle. We also recommend you wind your chenille into a ball prior to working with it. Now let's talk about working in rounds. You have two options. You can join each round with a slip stitch in the first stitch and then chain one and continue on your way. That is how the pattern is originally written. That said, the way that I prefer to do it, and I'm going to do it in this video, is not join the round. I'm just going to go ahead and work in rounds. And to make my life easier, I'm going to add a stitch marker so that I can mark the last stitch of every round. I'm going to work in single crochet. Sometimes you'll find that single crochet in chenille yarn could be a little loose. To change that up, to give yourself a firmer fabric, you could do a yarn under single crochet if that is a technique you're comfortable with. Or they also recommend this cross stitch single crochet in which you yarn under for your first, when you first draw up a loop, and then go ahead and yarn over to pull through both loops to finish your stitch. You may want to experiment a little bit. You want to make sure that you get a nice firm fabric so that the stuffing doesn't pop out. We'll talk more about color changes if we need it, and I'm going to show you the invisible decrease when we get there. So let's start our little chicken friend. Now here we also have some options at the very beginning of the chicken body. With color 1, which is the white, it says make a magic ring, chain 1, 6 single crochet in ring, or chain 2, 6 single crochet in second chain from hook. I'm going to show you both options. I prefer the magic ring, but I know a lot of people don't. So I'll show you both ways and you can pick the way that works for you. I'm going to leave the tail of my yarn over my left hand. This is the magic ring start. I'm going to bring that yarn over my index finger, under my middle finger, and over my index finger again, and I'm making a big X. And you can see I have a little space in here between those fingers, and I'm using my thumb and my ring finger to hold all my yarn in place so I don't lose control of it. I'm going to take my crochet hook and go under the top right leg of the X, grab the top left leg of the X and pull it through. And now I'm going to use my right hand to pinch that. I want to make sure it doesn't get away from me. It's right up near the hook. Now I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to make 6 single crochet in the ring. And I'm making those single crochet the way I normally would, except they're in the ring and not in a stitch or a space. Now, once I have all 6 of my stitches in there, you can see how my tail got a little twisty. I'm going to go ahead and untwist the tail. But you will see that I crocheted over 2 strands. Now that my 6 stitches are in there, I'm going to hold on to the stitches with my right hand, and with my left hand I'm going to gently pull that tail so that my stitches form around. And here's my 6 stitches all in a round. So that is the magic ring start. Let's take a look at the chain 2 start. For the alternative start, the chain 2 start, we're going to chain 2, just like it says, and we're going to put our 6 single crochet that we need in the first round in the second chain from hook. So I'm going to go ahead and put all 6 single crochet in there. So that's 1, 2, and here's number 6. Remember, no matter which start you're going to use, if you are not going to join in chain 1, which I am not, you're going to need a locking stitch marker to go in the last stitch of the round so you know where you are. If you don't happen to have one, you can use a bobby pin or a little snip of a different color of yarn. You could use a paper clip or a safety pin. Whatever you have around is fine, but just make sure you have your 6 single crochets all in a round. Now for round 2, it says 2 single crochet in next stitch, increase made. So I'm going to find that first stitch that I made, and there it is, and I'm going to put 2 in there. 1, 2. And it's telling me increase made, so I know every time I see the instructions call for an increase, I'm going to put 2 stitches in 1 stitch. So that was the first stitch. Here's the second stitch. I'm going to do this in each stitch around. So I started with 6 single crochets, and I'm going to end the round with 12. When I get to this last stitch, I'm going to take the stitch marker out, put my 2 stitches in there. That's 1, 2, and quick put that stitch marker right back in that last one so I don't lose track. For round 3, single crochet in next stitch, increase 6 times. So that means I'm going to put a single crochet in the first stitch and 2 in the next one. 1, 2. And it said to do that 6 times, so I'm going to go all the way around. Single crochet in the next one, 2 in the next one, all the way to the end of the round, and we'll move that stitch marker up. For round 4, it says single crochet in the next stitch, increase in the next stitch, by which we mean put 2 in the same stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and it says to do that 6 times. So moving along from now through round 7, we're just going to follow along with the pattern. If it tells us to single crochet, we're going to single crochet, and if it tells us to increase, we're going to put 2 single crochets in the same stitch. For rounds 8, 9, and 10, we're just going to single crochet in each stitch around, no increases and no decreases. It's just super important to move that stitch marker up every time you complete a round so you can tell where your round begins and ends. I'm going to join you back here on round 11, where we're going to look at 2 options for a single crochet decrease. All right, here we are, and I have completed up through round 10. So you can see we have our little curvy shape for the bottom of our chicken. One thing that I wanted to point out, now is a really good time to take your yarn needle that came with your kit and to go ahead and weave in this end, because as we start to close up the top, we are not going to have the opportunity to reach into the bottom and close that up. So right now I'm going to stop what I'm doing, and I'm going to go ahead and weave in this end and trim it. Now let's talk about making our single crochet decrease. There's 2 different ways to do it, and I'm going to show you both of them so you can pick which one you like better. Now I'm at the top of round 11. It says single crochet in next 2 stitches, single crochet 2 together. So I'm going to single crochet in this stitch, single crochet in the next stitch, and I'm going to single crochet 2 together. So here's your first option. This is the one that I think all of us were taught when we were learning how to single crochet 2 together, which is insert your hook in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. You have 2 loops on your hook, and then insert your hook in the next stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, and you would have 3 loops on your hook. 1, 2, 3. Then you would yarn over and draw through all 3. So that is a traditional single crochet 2 together. The other one that is recommended in the notes, and the one that I prefer, is instead of going and having 3 loops on your hook, we can do it with 2. So I'm going to insert my hook in the front loop or leg only of that first stitch, and then I'm going to put my hook in the front leg or loop only of the next stitch, yarn over and draw through both stitches at the same time. Now I only have 2 loops on my hook. I can yarn over and draw through 2 and finish the single crochet the way I normally would. It's flatter, it's a little less lumpy, and I think especially for amigurumi, I think it just looks nicer. But I'm going to take that one out, and I'm going to show you one more time. Insert your hook under the front leg of that stitch. It's coming up in the center of the stitch. You see how I have one leg that I'm under and one behind? So there's one, and I'm going to do the same thing in the next stitch. So here are my 2 stitches. That's my working loop, and the 2 stitches, the 2 legs that I went under. Yarn over and draw it through, 2 loops on my hook, close her off like a regular single crochet stitch. Keep stitching right through round 16 because you now know everything you need to know. You're going to single crochet where it tells you, you're going to decrease where it tells you. When we come back for row 17, we're going to create the shaping at the top of the chicken. All right, here we are, and I have completed up through round 16, and you see we have some shaping. We built up the sides a little bit more, and this where the stitch marker is, that's going to be the rear. That's going to be the rear of the little chicken friend, and then his little comb is going to go up here. So moving on, it says row 17 because this is a row, not a round. It says fold in half matching stitches, and there'll be 14 stitches on each side because we had 28 when we finished. So what I like to do is grab this first one and make sure that I'm lining up with the stitch that had the stitch marker in it because that was the last stitch of the round. And I don't need that stitch marker at the moment, but we are going to use it later. So I have my working loop on my hook. I've lined up the stitches so they're right across from each other, and it says slip stitch across 9. So for slip stitch, we're going to yarn over and bring it through everything, through the stitches, through the working loop on my needle, through the whole ball game. So that was 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to do this for a total of 9 times. Now it says change to the red color at the end, but I am going to go slightly out of order in the assembly because I think it's going to make your life easier in the long run. So let me just go ahead and finish these 9 slip stitches and I'll tell you what I mean. So we wanted a total of 9 slip stitches across the top, but we're going to change color in the last one. So I've gone ahead and done 8. I'm going to take my hook out of the stitch and I'm going to put my stitch marker there so it doesn't pull out. Now, one thing I'm going to do exactly the way the pattern tells me is to stuff my little chicken friend before the opening is closed. Now, when you look at this, you think, boy, that doesn't look like a lot of stuffing. But when you open it, it certainly does. As soon as the air hits it, it's going to expand, and you have plenty of stuffing in here to stuff your chicken. So I'm going to let all that stuffing come out. You see it's expanding faster than it wants to come out of the package, which happens sometimes. And I'm going to use my fingers to fluff that up. Make sure there's not any clumps in there. There aren't usually, but sometimes. And you can see this is plenty of stuffing for our little chicken friend. So I'm just going to get small amounts at a time. And I'm going to stuff the chicken through the opening. And I'm going to focus on the back end of it first while I can still get my fingers in there. So I'm going to go ahead and stuff. Here we are with lots of stuffing, and honestly I had some left over. Now if I was following the pattern exactly, I'd go ahead and finish this seam up right now, but here is one of my best tips for this project. It tells us to put the safety eyes in later. I personally find it's easier to put them in now when I can still reach to the inside. So I'm skipping over to where it says finishing assembly. I'm going to make sure this is still lined up stitch by stitch, and there is my very exact middle of my chicken. It says punch the plastic eyes between rounds 14 and 15, having 4 stitches in between, and this is where they said earlier, they said it was optional to have some glue. If you wanted to use some glue, this would be the place to do it, but I feel like if I do it now when I have a good grip, I don't need the glue. So this was row 17, so this last one here is 16, and this one is 15, and it's telling me between 15 and 14, and it's telling me to have 4 stitches in between. So here's my center line, and I'm going to move 2 to the right. And I'm going to put my eye in. Now, if you're going to use the little safety eye saucers like I'm telling you to do, you want to make sure that that eye is exactly where you want it to be. 1, 2, 3, 4. Before you lock it. Because once it's locked, baby, it is on there and it is not coming off. So again, I like to sort of put them in like this, make sure I'm happy, and now I'm going to go ahead and lock them up. So I'm going to take my little saucer here with the cup side up, and I'm going to put it on the point, and I'm going to get my finger out of the way because those are sharp. And then I'm just going to go ahead and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. It's a very awkward angle, but I'm squeezing until the saucer goes down. Here, now you can see it. The saucer is down up against the fabric. Let's try that again. Now you can see it. The saucer is right up against the fabric. It's one of those things, it's a little fiddly to get started, but once you get it started, you'll hear it. It goes click, 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 and exactly in the right place. So here's my other saucer with my cup side up, putting the point in the middle and pushing really hard. So this is where they're telling you if you want to use some glue behind your guys, now's the time to do it. But I did go the least little bit out of order, so now I'm going back to my original instructions. Remember, it said 9 slip stitches and I only made 8, and that's because I want to change color in the last one. So let me get this back on my hook and get my stitch marker out of the way. I'm going to tighten this guy up a little bit, and I'm going to be gentle. Remember, with chenille yarn, you don't want to pull super tight. So for my 9th slip stitch, it's here, and it's here, and instead of yarning over and bringing the loop through with the white, I'm going to do it with the red because we're going to make our little cockscomb right now. So I'm not doing anything fancy or making a knot. I'm just pulling up a loop for that last slip stitch. And it says I can end off my white now. I'm going to leave a nice long tail because I'm going to have to give that a good tug and weave that end in. And also I have plenty of yarn left over, so I'm not super worried about it. So I'm just going to put this little white tail aside and deal with it later. And I'm going to put this little red tail aside and deal with it later. Okay, so now moving on with my red, it says chain 1, which I'm going to do even though we removed it when we were doing our rounds. Single crochet in the next 4 stitches, and they mean through both layers. So I'm going to get this guy and this guy. It's not difficult to do this, it just seems like it's a little fiddly because it is now a three-dimensional item. 2, 3, 4. Now it's really easy to see. And then it says 2 half double crochet in the last stitch. So for my 2 half double crochet, I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook into both of those stitches, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 3. So that's 1 half double crochet. Here's my other one, yarn over, insert my hook in that same stitch because I put 2 in that last one, and I'm going through both layers, yarn over and draw up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, draw through 3. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn again, leaving myself a nice long tail because I want to weave that in securely. And I'm just going to pull that cut end through. So I'm going to weave this end in here. I'm going to weave this end in here. I'm going to make sure that I'm keeping it under the red so it doesn't peek through. I'm going to weave in this end under here. And then the next thing I'm going to do with my little friend here is put on the cheeks. Now, one thing I want to point out, this is again just one more little tip, it's not required, but when I am weaving in ends in a stuffed toy like this and I have lots left over on my yarn tail, what I like to do is run that needle right through the stuffed animal and have it come out a couple inches away. It doesn't add to the security of the stitching, but what it does do is it helps prevent the yarn tail from pulling out, especially with a soft yarn like this. Wherever your yarn tail ends up, you don't want it to pull out. So if it runs through a stuffed animal like this, it's just extra stuffing. It's not going to hurt anything or anybody. So I did just want to show you that little tip. All right, now I'm going to put my little pink cheeks in, and I'm going to put them right there, right under the eyes. Now, how am I going to get this yarn started? What I like to do is start pretty far back, and I'm going to sort of weasel, that's the technical term, I'm going to weasel my yarn needle through the stitches, but I'm going to keep it towards the back because I don't want the pink to show through. And it's a little difficult to see, but you can see if you look real close, you're seeing my needle tip is kind of working its way through the stitches and keeping towards the back. And I'm going to come out right about, let's see, let's call it here. Your chicken does not have to look exactly like my chicken. It can have a personality of its very own. So I'm going to go ahead and tug that. And what I like to do to prevent myself from accidentally pulling out the tail, especially in an instance like this where I have plenty of yarn, I'm going to leave that little bit of tail peeking out, because it's going to help me notice that I have not pulled it out of place. Now I'm just going to stitch over this stitch where I want my little pink cheek to be. And again, I have plenty of yarn here, so I'm going to go ahead and do a second one, and I'm not pulling it super tight. I want it to just be adorable. And then I'm going to take my needle over here, so I'm under this eyeball. So I have one cheek under this eyeball, and one cheek under this eyeball. Not too tight, I want all that fluffiness to peek out because I think it's cute. For your chicken, you can make his personality look like whatever you like. Here's one. And here's my second one. So to knot this off, to fasten it off, I'm doing sort of a backwards thing. I'm weaseling behind those stitches like I did before, but of course we're doing it on the other end now. And I'm just trying to keep my needle towards the back so the pink doesn't show through the front. I like the cheeks. I like them just where they are. If you didn't, now would be a good time to pick them out and start over. And since I'm anchored behind those stitches, I'm going to go ahead and do what I did before. Just going to run that needle through the stuffing and hide that long tail where nobody will ever see it, which helps prevent it from pulling out. The last thing we have to put on is the beak. And I did mean to tell you, now is the perfect time to go back here and trim off that little tail that we left when we were setting up our pink yarn. It's okay if you pull it out a little bit. I had my not very good scissors today, sorry about that. And then let it pop back inside. So now I'm going to go ahead and put on the beak. For the beak, it tells us to go ahead and use our gold yarn, our C4, to make sure that you leave at least a 3-inch tail at the beginning, and you're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to pull that other tail through. And then here's my little beak, right here, my chain. So I'm going to grab my chicken friend, and I'm going to stitch the beak right here underneath, and I'm going to take care of weaving in those tails the same way I did for the little pink cheeks. Well, I am well on my way towards creating a flock. Here's our little chicken friend that we just made on camera, and here is the one that was made earlier. And here is the kit, the Quick Chenille Crochet Kit Chicken from Created. So once again, I am Mary Beth Temple. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I'm glad to spend some time with you, and we'll see you again here real soon. Bye-bye.